Happy Friday. I guess probably not so much of a happy Friday if you just turned off the Pistons game and are now joining us. If you guys aren't familiar by now, we've done this after every Pistons game. Win or lose, obviously way happier than or when they win. But I'm Ryan. I'm from the Sports Carnage podcast, which drops every Thursday. We had one, so one just dropped yesterday. Check it out if you haven't. But we're coming to you guys live after every Pistons game just to kind of break down what happened. If there's anything you can kind of take away moving forward for the rest of the season. Tonight's game was obviously a huge letdown after their last loss against the Raptors. You thought playing a team like the Bulls, who you should be better than even when you are shorthanded, you thought that would obviously yield a better result than it did. But you can really tell how much the injuries are affecting the Pistons now. You can see that they really just don't have the horses to run what they want to run, and not to kind of poo-poo all over this guy, but you're playing a guy like Tim Frazier. He's in the starting lineup, and he only played 17 minutes, but that's because he played so bad. In those 17 minutes, he had a plus-minus of minus 18. And you don't even want a guy like that on the court. And again, I'm not saying Tim Frazier's like this horrible basketball player or anything like that. But when you're forced to play those guys extended minutes, even some guys like Marcus Morris, or Markieff Morris that we have now, even guys like Markieff Morris, who they play relatively well, but you're giving him 30 minutes and 32 minutes tonight because Blake's not there. So even if the guys aren't actually bad players, they're not, 30-minute a night caliber NBA type players, which is kind of what the Pistons are forced to do now. And you just see it really causes a lot of trouble within the a lot of trouble within the offense. There are a couple of kind of huge takeaways tonight. And if you could point to a couple reasons why they lost, one big reason was three-point shooting. The Pistons only shot 6 of 29, which is basically 20% from three-point range, and then the Bulls hit 16 of 40, which is 40% right there. So on the three-point aspect, we made 6 and they made 16. That's the 30 more points that are swinging to them just from that one spot on the court. Other than that, their turnovers were equal. The Pistons had 16 and the Bulls had 17. So the Pistons did a little bit of a better job of, just kind of holding on to the ball tonight than they've been doing previously. But again, there's just not enough in that starting lineup. So Andre Drummond, 25 points, 23 rebounds, 4 blocks. Another really strong performance from him without Blake there and kind of being the main guy on the offensive end. And then it seems like, we say this every game, we have a couple really nice bright spots, which are Andre Drummond and Derrick Rose, who had another phenomenal night with 23 points and 7 assists here off the bench. And if you want to take kind of one positive away from our team, it is how well the bench played. Obviously, Derrick Rose is a part of that, and he's sort of a pseudo bench player at this point because he did outgun Tim Frazier in minutes by a lot. So Derrick Rose played 25 and Tim Frazier played 17. So obviously Rose got the majority of the minutes at the point guard position, but he's still technically off the bench. Christian Wood had another solid game for kind of what he's been doing. Langston Galloway was another guy who played, if that's the type of game he's going to give you off the bench, you're more than okay with it. And then Luke Kennard had another pretty nice performance tonight as well. But there's just not enough offense coming on this team. We had 2 guys over 20 points and only 3 guys at 15 or above, and that was Drummond, Kennard, and Derrick Rose. So that's where this team even misses a guy like Reggie Jackson, who I know a lot of the fans here are kind of sick of Reggie, but you can see what his extended absence not only has meant for the Pistons this season, but you can see it in previous seasons too. The offense usually went as far as Reggie Jackson was kind of able to take them. If he can get out there and control pace and run the pick and roll and distribute and just attack the way he's been able to, then the Pistons usually look pretty solid. But when he's not on the floor, they really don't have any of that. And especially with Blake not on the floor, there's not a lot of kind of stretching the floor going on. Markieff Morris and Tony Snell are both guys who can make the three, but other than Luke Kennard in that starting lineup that you had tonight, you don't expect anybody to really kind of shoot it at an elite level. So Dennis here says the boys need to play 10. The youngsters can ball, pick and practice 2 units, and run the competition off the court. Well, they only played 10 guys tonight. They played, obviously, Markieff, Snell, Drummond, Frazier, Kennard were the starters, and then everyone they brought up the court was Thonmaker, Christian Wood, Derrick Rose, Bruce Brown, and Langston Galloway. But again, the issue has been the issue itself isn't the injuries, but the issue that the injuries are causing is kind of what's been derailing the team, at least in the beginning of the year, where you have Langston playing 23 minutes, again Tim Frazier getting 17, Markieff Morris getting 32 minutes. Tony Snell might see about 27 minutes, just kind of regardless. But guys are playing more minutes than they should be. And again, it's not that they're bad players, but they all have certain weaknesses on the court that don't allow them and have really kind of never allowed for them to be just in their career guys who should be on the court for 20, 30 minutes a night. And that's really what you're seeing with the Pistons. They had it was an entertaining game to watch between the Pistons and the Bulls. Obviously, you want your team to end up coming out on top. But the Pistons had a couple nice sparks there. A lot of them were sparked by what Derrick Rose was able to bring to them. Hello, Mr. Adidas. How are you? But it was, a lot of it was sparked by Derrick Rose, again, who's continued just to play extremely well throughout the course of the season. And then obviously Andre Drummond is playing, probably like an all-star right now. If you're just to put his kind of pure numbers up against anybody, Andre Drummond is the guy that you'd probably start the all-star game in the East right now. But again, it's only 5 games in. One of the things that kind of bug me about this, just about the team in general, is you see a guy like Otto Porter go off tonight, and these are guys that aren't, they're not the best NBA players, and it's not like a guy like James Harden or Steph Curry. Name any best player in the league that you want. Anthony Davis, a couple of those guys. It's not like it's those guys that are killing you right now. It's a guy like Otto Porter who gets out there and he ends up shooting 8 of 12, which I don't know that he's ever done in his life, but 4 assists, 6 rebounds to go along with 22 points. You have other guys like Wendell Carter Jr., again, 16 and 11. Zach LaVine chipped in 26. Lauri Markkanen, 14 points. So everyone in their starting lineup had, Satoransky, who's their starting guard. Satoransky only had 7, but they had 4 guys basically at 15 or above. They had 4 players do that, and their bench wasn't nearly as good as our bench, but it doesn't matter with the levels that their starters were playing at tonight against us. Starting a guy like Tim Frazier, starting a guy like Markieff Morris, they're just not going to win those matchups. Brian O'Connor says we need to find another perimeter player to complement Kennard. Yeah, we're still lacking shooting, of course, and it's something that we tried to get in the we tried to rectify a little bit in the offseason. Again, Tony Snell is a guy that can shoot the ball a little bit. Markieff Morris isn't like a 10-foot and in player, right? He can expand out to the basket. Derrick Rose, obviously not the best shooter, but you didn't get Derrick Rose because you wanted him to because you want him to shoot the ball a whole lot. But one of the signings last year that really helped them kind of get into the playoffs at the very end was Wayne Ellington. So to your point, Brian, when you get a guy that can shoot the 3 and you're able to pair him out there with Kennard, or even just have him on the floor when Kennard is not there, it's pretty it's a pretty stark difference, because now, you have even just one more elite shooter on the team can do so much for your team in terms of spacing, even if, they're not knocking down 5 3-pointers apiece every game. Detroit Sports Nation says, how bad did you beat Dylan today in basketball? So me and Dylan, who's also on the Sports Carnage podcast, we did play basketball today. We only played a one-on-one game. I did end up winning, but other than that, we were running with the other people there. We went to Joe Dumars, so we were running with the other people there, 2-on-2, some 3-on-3 action, things like that. But let the record show is I did get the one-on-one dub against Dylan, so we have that to look forward to. But if you guys do have any questions about the game, obviously feel free to ask. But really, other than that, is there's more of a disappointing night than you probably would have liked, seeing that it is on the schedule. Some good news, well, so it's kind of some good news and bad news. Some good news is it sounds like Blake is a little bit ahead of schedule from them saying he was going to be out the entire first week in November. If you follow Rod Beard on Twitter, who's the Pistons beat writer, he's kind of hinted at, it looks like Blake's obviously getting just more and more involved in practice, more involved in like the pregame things, and he's able to do more things on the court. So he might be able to return quicker than a lot of Pistons fans thought. There's just kind of two things about that. One, it's obviously great to get Blake Griffin back. Two, you hope that he's not being like rushed back, which would only obviously higher the chances of him getting hurt again. You hope that this rough start, and it's something we talked about on the last live reaction, is you hope if the Pistons do get off to, if like a 2-7 start, that 2-4 right now, or even like a 3-4 start or 3-6 start, through like the first 9 games, you're hoping that rushing Blake back isn't something that they're trying to do, because they know this could really kind of put them behind the 8 ball in the playoff race. But the bad news in terms of, injury world is, I was looking on Twitter during the game, and it might have been Rod Beard as well, who was talking about Reggie Jackson and his back tightness. It keeps flaring up. He can go, he can run a little bit without the just kind of without any symptoms, but then when it does flare up, he starts to have spasms, and he just can't move right. So that's obviously not what you want to hear, considering that the only source of any type of offense that we've had from our point guard position has obviously been Derrick Rose. And while Derrick Rose again has played exceptional, I don't think the Pistons or any of their fans expect him to be able to keep up with that level of play. He's obviously not going to fall off the map, but I think he's probably averaging 25 points a game through the first 5 games on like really, really good efficiency. And that's not something that you can expect him to keep up. And it's not something that's, fair to him to expect him to keep up just at this point in his career, trying to keep him healthy for the playoff race, which is again why he only got 25 minutes tonight, because he was cooking out there. And if you're getting somebody that's, kind of on that much of a hot streak that Derrick Rose was on tonight, you're hoping that you can ride him for 33, 34 minutes, especially when it's a close game like it was pretty much all game tonight against Chicago. But being that Derrick Rose does have the injury history, you're obviously not going to play him for early November game in the beginning of the season, because your team does have higher aspirations down the line. Obviously, it's not a tanking team, and it's not even a team probably like the Pelicans, who you're sort of like, hey, they can make the playoffs. We just don't really know if they will. The Pistons are a team that I think everybody, at least locally, expects the Pistons to at least make the playoffs. I know some of the national predictions that they had before the season, a lot of them were pretty disrespectful to the Pistons. 35 wins, 34 wins, things like that, things that of course would see you in the lottery and not in the playoffs. But I don't really think anybody in the state of Michigan expects the Pistons to be a lottery team. But their next shot at it, hopefully they have hopefully they have a short-term memory, because their next shot at it is tomorrow night on the at Little Caesars, actually, against the Brooklyn Nets, who have obviously been without Kevin Durant and will continue to be without Kevin Durant for the entire year. But they still do have guys like Karis LeVert, guys like Spencer Dinwiddie, Kyrie Irving, who can come in and provide them some really big minutes. So that'll be a very tough matchup for our point guards, whether it's Derrick Rose, whether you see Bruce Brown out there getting some minutes handling the ball, or whether you see Tim Frazier, because those are all guys that can, and not that Karis LeVert is a point guard, but Kyrie and Spencer Dinwiddie, that those are guys who can really just take over the game. And I will say I don't like the road. I know it's only in Chicago, but I don't like the road home back to back. I think that's a disservice that the NBA has done, scheduling the Pistons with that. But I digress. Obviously, there's no excuses. But it's just something that grinds my gears, because they did it earlier in the season as well, when they had them play the Pacers, and then they had them home against the Hawks. And again, it's only Indiana to Michigan, but not something that I like to see. And you feel like the NBA is doing your home team a little bit dirty. But that's what we have for you guys tonight, as far as the basketball game goes. Tomorrow I'm going to try and get on here. I do have some other commitments, but I'll try and get on here. Or if I can't, I'll see if one of my Sports Carnage cohorts can get on here for you guys for the Michigan and Maryland football game. If you're a big Michigan fan, talk about the one we did go check out the one we did last week, where they absolutely just smacked Notre Dame around. That was a pretty fun reaction to do, because the fans in the comments were all happy about it, of course. Sammy Hallen says, make the playoffs and get swept in the first round. This team is 35-36 win team. Bruce Brown, Tim Frazier, LOL. I mean, if Bruce Brown and Tim Frazier play, if Reggie Jackson's not going to come back, and you have to have Bruce Brown and Tim Frazier playing a super ton of minutes, then yeah, they probably won't win any more than 35 games. But Tim Frazier was here to be the third point guard. Bruce Brown's a guy that they still want to bring along, probably a little bit slower than they have. They do like him because he's one of really the only guys that's a high-level defensive player on the team. But they know that his offense has a lot of work to do, which is why you saw Bruce Brown get so much run in the summer league as well as the preseason. He's just trying to kind of get those reps in. But Tim Frazier wasn't a guy that they brought here. Oh, I just read the end of it. Trash dumpster juice. Yeah, so it's the only reason I'll say that's a little bit unfair to Bruce Brown and Tim Frazier. Tim Frazier especially is because, like I said, he was here to be the third point guard. For if something to go wrong, he could come in and just kind of fill that hole. But without Reggie Jackson and with the minutes restriction that Derrick Rose has placed on him, Tim Frazier is playing way more than he should be. And he obviously has his limitations as a basketball player. There's things that he can do, which is why he's in the NBA and why he's on a roster. But he has those limitations as a basketball player, that if you're going to be on the court for 17 minutes, and in other games, he was seeing above 20 minutes. It's just that tonight he played so bad they really couldn't have him on the court anymore. But in other games he's playing above 20 minutes, where the other team knows what his deficiencies are, and they're obviously going to exploit those, and that puts the Pistons behind the 8 ball. But like I was saying, again, tomorrow we should be here after the Michigan-Maryland game. We did one last week. Go check it out. Go check out the podcast if you like hearing me, or if you've joined me for kind of multiple of these. We're going to continue to do these on Facebook Live. But for more content, go to our YouTube page. Just type in Sports Carnage, subscribe there, comment, and like our videos. This one will be up in probably about 10 minutes on YouTube. As soon as I'm done with you guys, I go upload it there. So if you missed any of the beginning of it, you can kind of figure out where you missed. I'm like a human DVR for you guys. That's how much we care about you. But you can find us on Apple Podcast, or just iTunes if it's still called that. But Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Sports Carnage, or you can find us on Podbean. Again, Sports Carnage. Facebook, our links in the description right there, Sports Carnage Podcast, and Twitter, it's just at Sports Carnage. So we make it really easy for you guys. If you just type it into your Google browser, it'll take you really wherever you want to go. But that's what I have for you guys. Again, happy Friday. Hopefully the rest of your night goes a little bit better than the last 2.5 hours went, if you did spend it watching the Pistons. But I appreciate you guys being here with me. And if you've ever liked any of our stuff on Sports Carnage and giving it a like, or even just giving it a listen, we do sincerely appreciate that. So, and go check it out if you haven't. But I will be back, or at least one of us will try to be back for you tomorrow for Michigan, Maryland, or even for the Pistons, because they play tomorrow. So you guys might end up seeing me twice. But anyway, have a great night, and I'm out.